The autumn wind whips around us as we stand at Clara's graveside. My granddaughter Ivy's small hand trembles in mine, her grip tightening as the minister speaks words that blur together like watercolors in rain. I can barely look at the polished mahogany coffin, knowing my daughter lies within. "Grandma," Ivy whispers, tugging at my sleeve. "Mommy's trying to tell you something." My heart catches. I glance down at her serious little face, those eyes so much like Clara's. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" She keeps pointing to her tummy. She says it's important. Ivy's voice carries that matter-of-fact tone children use when stating the obvious. Across the grave, Evan, my son-in-law, stares at us, his expression unreadable behind designer sunglasses. He's dressed impeccably in a tailored black suit, every hair in place. Something about his composure makes my skin crawl. "Show, Ivy," he says. "This isn't the time for games." I pull Ivy closer, shielding her from his sharp tone. "She's 5, Evan. Let her grieve how she needs to." The service continues, but Ivy's words echo in my mind. Clara had been in perfect health before her sudden collapse. The doctors called it heart failure, but something about that never sat right with me. After the final prayers, mourners drift away like fallen leaves. Renee, Clara's best friend, approaches me with red-rimmed eyes. "Lydia, She glances at Evan, who's speaking with the minister. "Can we talk later?" Before I can respond, Evan appears at her elbow. "Renee, thanks for coming. I'm sure you understand we need family time now." The way Renee flinches at his touch doesn't escape my notice. She hurries away, leaving me with more questions than answers. "Mother," Evan says, his voice honey smooth, "I've arranged for Ivy to stay with my parents tonight. Give you some time to rest." "No." Ivy's cry startles us both. She wraps her arms around my legs. "I want to stay with Grandma." I meet Evan's gaze. "She can stay with me. It's no trouble." His jaw tightens for a fraction of a second before he forces a smile. "If you're sure, I'll have her things sent over." That evening, as I tuck Ivy into Clara's old bed, she grabs my hand. "Grandma, Mommy's still trying to tell you about her tummy. She says you need to look." "Look at what, sweetheart?" "At her. Before they put her in the ground forever." Ivy's eyes fill with tears. She says it's the only way you'll know. A chill runs through me. Know what? That Daddy's a bad man. I sit heavily on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. Clara's body is at Marshall's funeral home, waiting for tomorrow's burial. I've known Thomas Marshall for 30 years. He owes me a favor from when his daughter needed help with college applications. "Try to sleep, love," I whisper, kissing Ivy's forehead. "Everything will be all right." But as I close her door, I'm already reaching for my phone. Thomas answers on the second ring. "Lydia? I was just thinking about you." "Thomas, I need to see her. One last time." A pause. "The viewing's over, Lydia. We're prepping for tomorrow's." "Please." My voice cracks. "I'm calling in that favor." Another pause, longer this time. "Come now. Use the back door." I grab my keys, my heart pounding. Clara always said Ivy had a gift for seeing things others couldn't. If my granddaughter is right, if there's something about Clara's death we've all missed, I need to know. And God help Evan if he's involved. The bruise on Clara's stomach haunts me as I stand in her bedroom the next morning. It wasn't natural, a strange pattern of dark purple spots, like a constellation of stars. Thomas had gone pale when he saw it, mumbling something about calling the medical examiner. Ivy sleeps down the hall while I search Clara's room, my fingers trailing over her belongings. Everything looks perfect, untouched, too perfect. Evan must have been here already. The bottom dresser drawer sticks slightly when I pull it. Something catches my eye, a slight gap in the wood at the back. I reach in, feeling around until my fingers brush against leather. A small journal, wedged into a hidden space. My hands shake as I open it. Clara's familiar handwriting fills the pages, but these aren't the words of the daughter I thought I knew. April 15th, he threw my phone against the wall today. Said I was texting too much with Mom. "Always running to Mommy," he said. I should have seen this coming. The way he isolated me from friends, controlled the money. God, I was so stupid. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. I sink onto Clara's bed, continuing to read. June 3rd. The bruises are getting harder to hide. Evan knows exactly where to hit, so no one will see. He's so careful about his image. Everyone thinks he's perfect, successful businessman, devoted husband and father. If they only knew. A soft knock at the door makes me jump. Mrs. Hawthorne. It's Marie, Evan's housekeeper. I quickly tuck the journal into my sweater. Yes. She peers in, wringing her hands. Mr. Mercer called. He's coming to collect Miss Ivy in an hour. Thank you, Marie. I notice her hesitation. Is there something else? She glances over her shoulder, lowering her voice. The night before, Miss Clara, before it happened, I heard them fighting. She said something about proof, about going public. He was so angry. My throat tightens. Did you tell the police? Mr. Mercer said they ruled it natural causes. Said there was no need to trouble anyone. Her eyes dart away. I should go. I've said too much. After she leaves, I flip through the journal's final entries. The last one stops mid-sentence, dated 3 days before Clara's death. I finally have what I need. The bank statements prove everything. Once Mom sees these, she'll understand why I have to take Ivy and bank statements. My heart pounds as I search the room again, but find nothing. Evan must have them. Ivy appears in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Grandma, Daddy's here. I turn to see Evan behind her, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Mother, I hope you don't mind. I thought Ivy might want to spend some time at home. Actually, I say, matching his tone, I promised to take her to the park today. Clara's favorite spot. Another time, perhaps. He steps forward, placing his hands on Ivy's shoulders. Come along, sweetheart. Marie packed your things. Ivy looks at me, her lower lip trembling. But Mommy says, Ivy. Evan's voice carries a warning. What did we discuss about making up stories? I move between them. She can stay if she wants to. I'm her father. His mask slips for just a moment, showing something cold beneath. And I think it's time we all stopped indulging these fantasies. Clara's gone. The sooner Ivy accepts that, the better. He leads her away before I can respond. Through the window, I watch them drive off, the journal burning against my ribs where I've hidden it. I reach for my phone, scrolling to Renee's number. The text she sent at the funeral keeps replaying in my mind. We need to talk. Not on the phone. My fingers hover over the keypad. Whatever Clara found in those bank statements, it was enough to get her killed. And now Ivy's alone with him. I start typing. Meet me in an hour. Bring everything you know about Clara and Evan. Everything. Renee's hands won't stop shaking as she pours her third cup of coffee. We're tucked away in a corner booth at Sal's diner, far from the windows. She keeps glancing at the door like she expects someone to burst in. Clara tried to tell you, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. That dinner party last Christmas? When she kept asking about your old cases from the library's legal section? The memory hits me like a punch. Clara, unusually quiet that night, asking about cases where spouses had disappeared. I'd thought she was researching for a true crime novel. She was planning her escape, wasn't she? Renee nods, pulling something from her purse, a small flash drive. She gave me this 3 days before it happened. Said if anything happened to her, I should give it to you. My fingers close around the drive. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Evan came to see me the day after she died. Renee's voice cracks. He knew about the affair I had last year. Said he'd tell my husband if I didn't keep quiet. But that's not why I'm here now. She leans forward. Clara was convinced he was poisoning her. The coffee turns to acid in my stomach. What? Small doses, she said, making her sick enough to need him. She started testing her food, keeping samples. It's all documented on that drive, along with the bank record she found. A commotion near the entrance makes Renee jump. It's just a waiter dropping plates, but her fear is contagious. There's more, she continues. The night before she died, Clara called me. Said she'd found proof that Evan's company was laundering money. Millions of dollars. She was going to expose everything. My phone buzzes, a text from Evan. Ivy's asking for you. Come for dinner tonight. He's invited me to dinner. I tell Renee. The color drains from her face. Don't eat anything he gives you.
Clara made that mistake.
She thought she could confront him, make him confess. She didn't know he'd figured out she was gathering evidence. I have to go, I say. Ivy needs me. Lydia, wait. Renee grabs my arm. There's something else. The night Clara died, she called me again. She was frantic, saying she'd found something in Evan's study, something about other women. She said. Renee swallows hard. She said she wasn't his first. The world tilts sideways. I steady myself against the table, remembering the strange bruise pattern on Clara's stomach. How many others had similar marks? I'll need copies of everything, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. And Renee? Get somewhere safe. She shakes her head. I can't leave.
He'll know I talked.
Then stay with me. We'll protect each other. My phone buzzes again. Evan, Ivy's made your favorite dessert. Don't disappoint her. I text back, looking forward to it. Standing to leave, I see a familiar face through the diner window, Detective Grant, watching from his parked car. He nods slightly, letting me know he's got eyes on us. One more thing, Renee says as I turn to go. Clara told me if anything happened to her, to tell you to look behind the loose brick in the garden wall, the one near her old reading spot. I pause. What's there? She never said, but whatever it is, she was willing to die to protect it. My phone buzzes a third time. A picture message from Evan, Ivy in the kitchen, wearing an apron, smiling that same forced smile I'd seen at the funeral. The caption reads, "We're both dying to see you." I clutch the flash drive tighter, feeling its edges dig into my palm. Whatever's behind that brick, whatever's on this drive, I have to stay alive long enough to find it. For Clara, for Ivy, for all the others who couldn't fight back. Detective Grant studies the bruised photos spread across his desk, his expression darkening with each one. These patterns, he says, tapping the image from the funeral home. They're consistent with arsenic poisoning. The discoloration, the clustering, I've seen it before. I place Clara's diary beside the photos. There's more. He flips through the pages, his jaw tightening. When he reaches the final entry, he looks up. You realize what this means? If Evan was laundering money through his company. Clara wasn't his first victim. I finish. Renee mentioned others. Grant pulls up something on his computer, turning the screen toward me. 3 obituaries, young women, all with successful husbands, all dead from natural causes in the past decade. My stomach lurches when I see their photos. They could be Clara's sisters. Evan Mercer worked with all their husbands, Grant says. Different names back then, but the same pattern. The companies would fold shortly after the wives died. Insurance payments, corporate assets, all disappeared. A knock at the door makes us both jump. Officer Chin steps in, looking grave. Sir, we've got a problem. The evidence from the Hawthorne case, it's gone. What do you mean, gone? Someone accessed the evidence room last night. Security cameras were disabled. All we found was this. She holds up an evidence bag containing a single playing card, the Queen of Hearts, with a crude X drawn across the face. Grant's chair scrapes back. Get me the duty roster now. My phone buzzes. A text from Renee. Someone broke in. They know. Getting out of town. Before I can respond, another message appears from Evan. Found something interesting in Clara's old things. Come by the house. Ivy misses you. He knows, I say, showing Grant the message. He's using Ivy to draw me in. We can bring him in for questioning. On what grounds? The evidence is gone. I stand, gathering Clara's diary. But I know where we might find more. The garden wall at Clara's reading spot. There's something hidden there. Mrs. Hawthorne. Grant's voice stops me at the door. Don't go to that house. Let us handle this. My granddaughter is there. And if something happens to you, who will protect her then? I think of Samuel, my late husband, how he always said patience was the deadliest weapon. I'll be careful, but I need you to do something for me. 20 minutes later, I'm parked outside Clara's old house, watching Evan through the kitchen window. He's making dinner, moving with that precise control that once seemed elegant but now looks mechanical. Ivy sits at the counter, coloring, but her eyes keep drifting to the window.
My phone buzzes one last time.
Grant. In position. Security footage recovered. You were right about the evidence room, inside job. Officer Chen's missing. The pieces click into place.
Chen.
The playing card. The other wives. I dial Evan's number, watching him answer through the window. Mother, he says smoothly. Coming to join us? Actually, I was wondering if you knew Officer Chen's wife. Laura Chen? She died 3 years ago. Natural causes, just like Clara. A slight pause. Through the window, I see his free hand clench. I'm not sure I follow.
No.
What about Rebecca Torres?
Katrine Års.
All dead within months of their husbands doing business with you. All with the same bruise pattern Clara had. You should come inside, he says, his voice dropping. Ivy's been asking for you. We wouldn't want to disappoint her, would we? I watch him set down the phone and add something to one of the dinner plates. My hand touches Clara's diary in my pocket, feeling its weight like a shield. No, I whisper. We wouldn't want that at all. The garden wall looms before me in the growing dusk, its weathered bricks holding secrets I'm not sure I want to uncover. Evan and Ivy are still visible through the kitchen window, but I keep to the shadows, counting bricks from the corner where Clara used to read. 3 up for a cross, I whisper, remembering Renee's instructions. The brick shifts easily, revealing a small metal box wedged deep in the wall. My fingers brush something cold. A USB drive, similar to the one Renee gave me, and a ring I recognize instantly. Clara's grandmother's ring, the one Evan claimed she'd lost months ago. A note falls from the box, Clara's handwriting hurried but clear. Mom, if you're reading this, check the footage from my necklace camera. The password is Ivy's birthday. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. He's watching everything. My phone vibrates. Detective Grant. Officer Chen found.
Dead.
Same bruise pattern. Get out now. Movement catches my eye. Through the window, I see Evan leading Ivy upstairs, his hand gripping her shoulder too tightly. She looks back, and for a moment, our eyes meet through the glass. Grandma. Her voice carries faintly through the window. Mommy says don't drink the tea. Evan's head snaps toward the window. I duck behind a bush, heart pounding, as his silhouette appears at the glass. The back door creaks open. Mother? His footsteps crunch on the gravel path. I know you're out here. Let's talk about this like adults. I clutch the box to my chest, weighing my options. The gate is 15 feet away, but he's between me and my car. You know, he continues closer now. Clara had this same habit of sneaking around. Never could trust her to stay where she belonged. A bitter laugh. She thought that camera necklace was so clever. Didn't realize I'd known about it for weeks. My phone buzzes again. Grant. 2 minutes out. Keep him talking. I step out from behind the bush. Did you make her tea too, Evan? He smiles, that perfect, practiced smile that must have charmed so many women before Clara. You should come inside. It's getting cold, and I've prepared something special. Like you prepared for Officer Chen? Or the others?
Ah.
He stops, head tilting. You've been busy, but you don't have the whole picture. The company's the money. It's bigger than you realize. Clara didn't understand either. She thought exposing everything would make her a hero. Where's Ivy? Safe. Upstairs. Where she'll stay, unless. He takes another step forward. We could make this easy. A quiet family dinner. A tragic accident. Grandmother and granddaughter. Overcome by grief, perhaps. Distant sirens pierce the evening air. Evan's smile falters for just a moment. You're surrounded, I say, praying it's true. It's over. He laughs, pulling something from his pocket. Clara's camera necklace. Nothing's over until I say it is. You know what's fascinating about digital evidence? How easily it can disappear. The sirens grow louder. Evan's eyes dart to the house, then back to me. Something shifts in his expression. that perfect mask cracking to reveal something desperate underneath. "Last chance," he says softly. "Come inside, or I promise you'll never see Ivy again." Through the upstairs window, I catch a glimpse of movement. Ivy's small face pressed against the glass, her hand raised in a familiar gesture. She points to her stomach, just like she did at the funeral. The pieces click together. Clara's last message wasn't about her own stomach. It was about Evan's secret room in the basement, the one she'd mentioned in her diary, the one where he kept his evidence, his trophies. I take a step toward the house. "You're right, Evan. Let's have that tea." The basement door creaks open, revealing concrete steps descending into darkness. Evan's hand rests on my shoulder, steering me forward while sirens wail in the distance. Upstairs, Ivy's footsteps pace across the floorboards, our own private metronome counting down the minutes. "You should have left it alone," Evan says, flicking on a light that illuminates rows of filing cabinets. Clara couldn't leave it alone either. My fingers brush against the USB drive in my pocket. How many others? Enough to build an empire. He moves to a cabinet, pulling out a drawer. Every wife brought something valuable: connections, insurance policies, corporate assets. "Clara." He smiles that perfect smile. "Clara brought you." "Me?" "A retired librarian with a reputation for solving cold cases. The perfect person to expose everything, if anyone would believe you." He removes a folder, spreading photos across a metal desk. Who would trust the grieving mother-in-law? The photos show women, dozens of them, each one bearing that same strange bruise pattern. Each one smiling beside Evan in different guises, different hair, different names, but always that same practiced charm. Officer Chen was getting close, he continues. Like Clara, she thought she could save everyone. Such a waste. Footsteps thunder overhead. Police entering the house. Evan's expression doesn't change as he pulls out a gun. "Sit," he says, gesturing to a chair. "We're going to wait for Detective Grant. He'll want to see this." "See what?" "Your suicide note, of course. How the guilt of falsely accusing your son-in-law drove you to desperate measures." He slides a paper across the desk. "You'll be found with evidence proving you tampered with Clara's medication, driven mad by grief." Heavy footsteps approach the basement door. Evan positions himself behind me, gun pressed to my ribs. "One word," he whispers, "and Ivy has an accident before anyone reaches her." The door opens. Detective Grant appears, weapon drawn. "Mrs. Hawthorne." "We're down here," Evan calls, his voice trembling with fake concern. "Something's wrong. She's talking about Clara, about hurting herself." I meet Grant's eyes as he descends, seeing the question there. One wrong move, and Ivy. My hand touches Clara's ring in my pocket, its edge sharp against my finger. "Show him," Evan commands. "Show him what you found." Slowly, I reach into my pocket, the USB drive and ring clatter onto the desk. "Evidence," I say quietly, "of a grieving woman's obsession?" Evan's grip loosens slightly. "Exactly. We tried to help her, detective, but after Clara? I think of Samuel, my late husband, teaching me self-defense after retirement. The smallest weakness, he'd said, can become your greatest strength." "I'm sorry," I whisper. "What was that?" Evan leans closer. "I'm sorry, Clara." In one motion, I drive my elbow back while twisting away. The gun fires, the bullet striking the filing cabinet as Grant tackles Evan. More officers pour down the stairs as they struggle. I lunge for the desk, grabbing the USB drive and photos, but Evan breaks free. His hand catches my ankle, pulling me down. My head strikes the concrete. Through blurring vision, I see him reaching for the gun again. Grant shouts a warning. Another shot rings out. When my eyes refocus, Evan lies motionless, blood spreading across his pristine shirt. Above us, Ivy screams. "Grandma!" I try to stand, but the room spins. The last thing I see is Grant reaching for his radio. "Officer down. We need medical, now." Then darkness takes me, and Clara's voice whispers in my mind. "Not yet, Mom. Ivy still needs you." The hospital room blurs into focus as I wake, the steady beep of monitors mixing with Ivy's quiet humming. She sits beside my bed, coloring, while Detective Grant stands at the window. "Welcome back," he says. "You've been out for 2 days." My throat feels like sandpaper. "Evan."
Alive.
"Surgery went well." Grant moves closer, lowering his voice. "The evidence from the basement. It's bigger than we imagined. Dozens of victims across 3 states. Different names, different companies, but always the same pattern." And Officer Chin? Found her phone. She'd been building a case for months. That's why she infiltrated the evidence room. She knew someone in the department was working with Evan. Ivy looks up from her coloring. "Mommy says he's awake now." Grant and I exchange glances. Down the hall, a door slams, followed by shouting and running feet. "Stay with her," I say, pulling myself up despite the room spinning. "Mrs. Hawthorne. He owes me the truth. All of it." I find Evan's room easily. It's the one with 2 officers posted outside. They recognize me, stepping aside after a nod from Grant, who's followed me out. Evan lies handcuffed to the bed, his perfect appearance finally cracked. Our eyes meet, and for the first time, I see something real in them. Fear. "Come to finish the job?" His voice is hoarse.
No.
"I came to understand." "Understand what?" "How I built an empire. How I protected my investments. How you could look Clara in the eyes every day, knowing what you planned to do." He laughs, the sound brittle. "Clara was different. She wasn't supposed to." His facade cracks further. "She looked at me like I was worth saving. Nobody had ever. But you killed her anyway." "I had to. She found the records, all of them. The other wives, the shell companies, everything. She said she could help me come clean, start over." His hands clench. "Nobody starts over. You just find new masks to wear." Footsteps approach. Ivy, breaking away from Grant. She runs to the bed, her small face fierce. "Mommy wants you to know something," she says to Evan. His composure shatters completely. "Ivy, please." She says the others are waiting for you. All of them. They're not going to let you hide anymore. The monitors begin beeping faster. Evan's eyes dart around the room, seeing something we can't. "No," he whispers.
You're dead.
"You're all dead." Medical staff rush in as he thrashes against the handcuffs. I pull Ivy back, watching his perfect mask finally fall away completely. "They're here," he screams. "Make them stop looking at me." Later, in the hallway, Grant tells me Evan signed a full confession. "He'll never get out," he says. The DA's pushing for maximum sentences on all counts. But I'm watching Ivy, who's resumed her coloring as if nothing happened. "What did you really see in there, sweetheart?" She looks up, Clara's eyes staring back at me from her small face. "Just Mommy and the others. They needed him to see them one last time. And now they can rest." She holds up her drawing, a garden full of women, all smiling, all free. "Mommy says we can go home now. She's not angry anymore." I touch the bruise on my temple, thinking of all the wounds that don't leave visible marks. Some scars heal clean, while others transform us into something stronger. "Yes," I say, taking her hand. "Let's go home." Behind us, Evan's screams fade into whispers, then silence. Whatever he sees now, he'll see forever. Some justice comes from courts and confessions, but other kinds arrive on their own, carried by the whispers of those we thought were gone. 1 year later, I stand in Clara's garden, watching Ivy plant sunflowers. The same wall that once held dark secrets now supports climbing roses, their thorny stems covering old wounds. The Clara Hawthorne Foundation received another donation, Renee says, joining me with coffee mugs. She's different now, stronger, like steel forged in fire. 3 more women came forward after the trial. They're safe now. I nod, thinking of the foundation we built from Evan's seized assets. Clara would have liked that, using his money to save others. Ivy looks up from her planting, dirt smudged across her cheek. "Mommy says the flowers will bloom extra bright this year." Detective Grant's car pulls into the driveway, and he approaches with a familiar manila envelope. "The last of the paperwork," he says. Evan's appeal was denied. He'll never see daylight again. How is he? I ask, not sure why I care. Still claiming he sees them. All of them. The prison psychiatrist says he spends his days apologizing to empty chairs. Ivy stands, brushing dirt from her knees. They don't sit in chairs anymore, silly. They dance in the garden. We all fall silent, watching her skip toward the house. Sometimes I wonder if she really sees Clara, or if it's just her way of keeping her mother close. Maybe both can be true. There's something else, Grant says quietly. We found another diary, hidden in one of Evan's old properties. It belonged to his first wife. My hands tighten around the coffee mug. What did it say? That's just it, the last entry. He hesitates. She wrote about her daughter. A little girl who could see things others couldn't, who disappeared the same night her mother died. A chill runs through me despite the warm spring air. You think? I think some questions are better left unanswered. He looks toward Ivy, who's arranging flowers in the kitchen window. Some gifts, too. Later that evening, as I tuck Ivy into bed, she grabs my hand. Grandma, Mommy wants you to know something. What's that, sweetheart? She says it's okay to be happy again. That's why she sent you the dreams about the garden. I freeze. I've never told anyone about those dreams, about Clara showing me where to plant each flower, how to make beauty grow from darkness. She also says, Ivy yawns, her eyes drifting closed. She says the other little girl is happy too, with her own mommy, in their own garden. I sit there long after she falls asleep, watching shadows dance across the wall. Tomorrow, we'll plant more flowers. The foundation will help more women. Life will go on, growing new patterns over old scars. But tonight, I swear I catch a glimpse of Clara in the moonlight, tending to her flowers. She looks up and smiles, not the careful smile she wore in her final years, but the real one, bright and free. Beside her, a small figure dances among the roses, her laughter echoing like wind chimes. I don't tell Grant about what Ivy said. Some truths belong to the garden, to the quiet spaces between justice and mercy, between vengeance and healing. Clara understood that in the end. So did her daughter, who sees what we can't or won't. The sunflowers will bloom soon, turning their faces toward the light. And in their shadows, other flowers grow wild and free, tended by hands we cannot see but know are there. Sometimes justice comes from courtrooms and confessions. Sometimes it grows in gardens, planted by children who speak to ghosts, tended by mothers who learn to listen. And sometimes, if you're very quiet, you can hear them all dancing among the roses.
My dad has been growing the business his father started and turning a profit. He very recently confirmed to surrender an exquisite villa, still a mansion, and give it for my personal use. But I realize that which is yours, very rightfully, is mine as well, my husband. This mansion now belongs to me, and I will employ you as a housemaid. If you're not feeling that, well then perhaps divorce is an option. That mansion, though it was supposedly in my name after we purchased all the legal papers that were signed but done when I got a hold of them, turned into being actually written directly under his own undeclared moniker. He actually thinks that is okay. Does he understand the potential gravity of what this could mean to himself? My name is Aaron, and while I don't intend to boast, I was born into a wealthy family. My father, the CEO of several companies, inherited the business from my grandfather, who initially started a small shop repairing and selling TVs and music systems. Over time, the company flourished, expanding into various branches and diversifying into the IT sector. My father's foresight in selling computers and accessories before they gained widespread popularity proved to be a lucrative move. Besides this, he ventured into real estate, collaborating with local businesses, and actively contributing to community development. My mother served as the vice president of the company. After studying it in college, I joined the family business. Despite the outward appearance of affluence, We didn't live as extravagantly as portrayed in TV dramas. My father believed in instilling good values, rejecting the notion that spoiling a child aids in their responsible growth. Our family home was spacious, and we had a maid. But as a child, I actively participated in household chores. Dining at fancy restaurants occurred infrequently, and our international travels were limited to once a year, with the majority being local trips. My school life seemed quite ordinary, and it would have been challenging for anyone to guess that my family was affluent due to my unassuming demeanor. I dated guys within my age group, just like any other girl. Among them, Michael, who later became my husband, was one of my colleagues at the same workplace. During those times, I worked as a sales representative and office manager at an aid-related shop, and Michael was also a sales rep there. I chose not to disclose that my father was the CEO to my coworkers, making it easier for Michael to approach me. I noticed that he was straightforward and had no reservations. Although I didn't seek extravagance, I'd always suggested places within Michael's budget during our dates. At restaurants, he would order generously, explaining that if there was extra, he'd eat it, opting for a cost-effective approach to enjoy a hearty meal. Some might have considered him a bit frugal, but I found it endearing. Unbeknownst to him, I earned several times more than he did, content with my fair compensation for the responsibilities I held. I unconsciously became accommodating. Michael, always keen on budget-friendly ways to satisfy his appetite, received my gestures with gratitude. During our dates, I'd often bought extra food or thoughtful gifts, knowing he would appreciate them. When shopping for clothes, I would add extra socks for him. And on occasions when I got a new bedspread, I'd include pajamas and a pillow for him. I genuinely enjoyed making him happy. Even when visiting his home, I willingly cooked for him and took care of the cleanup. Out of the blue, Michael proposed to me one day, expressing that there was no one better than me. At that moment, I hesitated, harboring reservations. After all, my father was the CEO of a major company, and he held a prominent position at my current workplace. I feared that if Michael were to discover this, he might reconsider our relationship. Deciding to take Michael to my parents' home for the first time, I aimed to introduce him to my family and disclose everything about our background. If he accepted it all, I would be more than willing to marry him. As Michael's inaugural visit to my family home approached, he appeared visibly nervous. However, my dad, though strict on occasion, generally exuded a calm demeanor. When I presented Michael as the man I was contemplating marrying, my father welcomed him with a warm smile, alleviating some of Michael's tension. Although surprised to learn about my father's CEO status, Michael managed to navigate the visit smoothly with my father's supportive demeanor. Upon leaving the house, Michael exclaimed about the enormity and magnificence of the residence, expressing gratitude for my father's kindness. He even suggested that we could get along well. When I casually mentioned my dad's ownership of additional buildings and a vacation home, Michael appeared more astonished. Despite the revelation, he resolved to marry me, the daughter of such a prominent man, and I agreed wholeheartedly. Eventually, we became a married couple. However, something bothered me. At the moment of accepting his proposal, I noticed a slightly mischievous grin on Michael's face for a split second. Dismissing it as his quirky way of smiling, I didn't dwell on it, but perhaps had I paid more attention, I could have averted the impending tragedy. As Michael and I moved into a typical, not overly luxurious apartment, he seemed to grasp the significance of my father's status. Yet I never explicitly disclosed my income, maintaining a modest lifestyle. Gradually, Michael's demeanor changed. After a while, I balanced work and household responsibilities while he started demanding more. One evening, as I prepared dinner, he asked, "What's for dinner tonight?" In response, I informed him that I had prepared his favorite curry rice. However, to my surprise, he appeared dissatisfied. As he sat on the sofa, he expressed his desire for something like prime beef steak once in a while. This caught me off guard, as he had never complained about my cooking before. I pointed out that prime beef was quite expensive, but he clicked his tongue in annoyance, insisting that considering my father's earnings, indulging in prime beef occasionally should not be a big deal. Reluctantly, I agreed to get prime beef for the next day. Michael smirked, stating that we should be able to enjoy such things normally from now on. While my salary could afford such luxuries, my previous lifestyle had instilled a reluctance to spend so extravagantly. However, to avoid issues early in our marriage, I resigned myself to the decision to actually cook prime beefsteak. Unfortunately, Michael's lavish tendencies did not stop there. He frequently requested expensive ingredients for meals and specified upscale restaurants when we went out. His cravings extended beyond food, manifesting in desires for a TV larger than 60 inches, and even suggesting we should purchase a massage chair for the sake of relaxation after work. These remarks became more frequent, and I began to feel that it was getting out of hand. I questioned the need for such extravagant items, expressing my concern about the expenses involved. Frustrated, I finally retorted, asking him if he thought we were made of money. I challenged his extravagant lifestyle, stating that living so lavishly was unnecessary. In response, Michael made a displeased face and clicked his tongue again, expressing his discontent. He argued that as the husband, he contributed to the household expenses and insisted that I should listen to him. However, his statements puzzled me as his contributions, while appreciated, did not amount to a lavish sum. In fact, I contributed more, a fact I never disclosed to him. Despite my substantial financial input, he made these assertions without hesitation. This change in Michael's behavior left me questioning his mindset. He was not like this before, and I couldn't comprehend why he had changed. At that moment, I found myself in a state of confusion, unable to comprehend Michael's recent behavior. In response to his audacious requests, I decided to temporarily appease the situation by telling him, "All right, I'll think about it." Little did I know that the explanation for his bold behavior would become apparent just a few days later. That particular day, my father summoned me to the office of our it shop where I worked, claiming that he had something important to discuss. While Michael was engrossed in his work, my father entered the office and initiated a serious conversation. He expressed uncertainty about how much longer he could continue as the CEO and hinted at the possibility of me taking over in the future. Furthermore, he mentioned transferring the vacation home to me. This vacation home, briefly mentioned to Michael earlier, resembled a large lodge located about a 30-minute drive away. It was a place where my father used to host gatherings with township owners under the guise of meetings. Although such meetings were no longer held, the house was consistently ready to be lived in, maintained by a housekeeper. My father offered me the freedom to use the vacation home however I wanted. This proposition left me torn, as I had no concrete idea of how to utilize such a property. The vacation home boasted over 6,000 square feet, with a lavish garden surrounded by nature, akin to a mansion. Lacking the social connections to host significant parties, I contemplated keeping it as an asset. I conveyed to my father that I would positively consider his proposal, but needed more time to make a decision. He assured me there was no rush and left a contract on the desk before departing the shop. Returning home after work, I leaned towards accepting the mansion, intending to give it further thought the next day. However, the following day brought an unexpected turn of events. Upon arriving at work, I discovered that Michael, who typically arrived before me, was absent from the shop. Intrigued, I entered the office only to find him there. Instinctively, I asked, "What are you doing here?" To my surprise, he flashed a document in my face, stating, "I overheard the conversation about the mansion yesterday. Sounds like an amazing deal, right?" Dumbfounded by Michael's audacious move, I reluctantly signed the document. He flaunted a contract my father had handed me just the day before. Shockingly, Michael had inscribed his own name on it. I was utterly taken aback and couldn't help but express my disbelief. "What on earth are you doing?" I questioned him. But Michael, without a hint of remorse, casually responded, "Why not? Your dad said he's giving away an amazing mansion, right? If you're off his side, I figured I'd take it." He said this with a smirk, but there was no way I could accept it. Persistently, I pleaded with him, emphasizing the house's worth of $4 million and my father's intention to give it to me. However, Michael dismissed my concerns with a nonchalant laugh. $4 million, Dan, that's impressive. Think about it, I have the right to this mansion because you're my wife and I'm your husband. So I have a right to what's yours. Moreover, your dad really likes me. He probably won't have any complaints. So from today, this villa is my house. If you live in a wealthy house, you've got to make use of it. How about I hire you as a maid in this mansion? If you have any complaints, I'll divorce you anytime," he confidently declared. It was at that moment when I recalled Michael's past actions and words, and everything finally clicked. He seemingly had no qualms about taking from others, even if it meant practically stealing without feeling guilty. During our dating days, I'd always showered him with gifts, but he never reciprocated. My giving nature might have corrupted him, leading him to believe that what was mine was automatically his. My dad's kindness to Michael likely made him feel my father was easy to manipulate, and perhaps he perceived me as even more gullible. With a plan forming in my mind, I decided to confront him. I declared, "Fine, then this mansion is yours, but I'm not going to be your maid. Let's get a divorce. Take care." After that, I returned to my job and during my lunch break, called the divorce lawyer to initiate the process. Michael, seemingly unfazed, responded with bravado, claiming he was fine with it, and canceling the lease on his current place. Little did he know that tragedy was about to hit him, and he just hadn't realized it yet. Later, I went back to my parents' place and shared everything with my father. From that point on, everything unfolded according to my plan. A few weeks later, Michael called me in a state of panic, having received an enormous bill. While his shock was understandable, it was only fair considering the fixed property tax on the $4 million house he had claimed as his own. I casually informed Michael that he should expect to pay around that much for the property tax. However, he appeared utterly clueless, lacking knowledge that paying tax on owned property is common. Normally, my father would have covered the tax if he had received the property, but upon hearing the entire story, my usually calm father was furious. Despite my warnings about my father's strict nature, he declared he can have it if he can afford it, and accepted the property transfer to Michael. To be honest, a part of me wanted Michael to learn a tough lesson, and there was no way he could afford the hefty amount. Frustrated with Michael's persistent pleas, I decided to deliver a final blow. The annual property tax, I revealed, amounted to about $660,000. It dawned on me that Michael always had a mindset of trying to take advantage of his friends, possibly driving them away and leaving him without anyone to teach him common sense. Acknowledging that I may have been a bit unreasonable, I admitted that my once cute perception of Michael had drastically changed. Without any sympathy left, I hung up the phone. Subsequently, Michael couldn't sustain living in the house and faced forced eviction, realizing he couldn't afford it. My father reverted the property deed back to my name, incurring the gift tax himself. Meanwhile, Michael faced severe consequences. He was fired from his job and charged with unlawfully changing the property deed. He received scoldings from his parents and was shunned by acquaintances. Now jobless and friendless, he barely scraped by in a rundown apartment, working odd jobs. His parents were even considering disowning him. As for me, I've been gradually preparing to take over my father's company. My father once told me that success in business doesn't come from looking for shortcuts. Reflecting on the fact that I almost married Michael, I deeply understand the truth in his words. Inspired by my father's greatness, I push forward every day in my involvement in running the business. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily. I wish to share my awful stepmother story, whom I will call Julie. I would never call her anything else due to her motherly attitude. She never acted like one and never wanted to try. My dad's name is Jacob, and I met Julie when he introduced her to me. Hey, Emily, I want you to meet Julie. She told me never to call her my mom. I complain for you to even think that she could be your mom. You are only my husband's daughter, accept your reality. You are a teenager, and I do not wish to do anything for you. I replied, that is okay, Julie. I can handle myself. I just wish for my dad to be happy. I will not bother you. She shot back, you're already in the way, you little witch. Don't try to act smart with me. I know how to handle worthless teens like you. Once you turn 17, I'll make sure you're out of our lives so I can have Jacob all to myself. The conversation got nasty really fast. Julie said some horrible things about me and my late mother. My dad was a widower, and my mom passed away when I was just 7 years old. I miss her a lot, and it took my dad a long time to start dating again. That's one reason why I never told him about Julie's terrible words or behavior. Looking back, it was a big mistake to stay quiet because Julie became a nightmare after she married my dad. Even my dad was surprised by her behavior. Julie always targeted me and tried her best to kick me out of the house. She made it clear that she hated kids and didn't want me around. She never told my dad this before they started dating. When my dad refused to abandon me, she began to find ways to make my life miserable. She would ruin her own food and blame it on me. She'd say, look at what your daughter did, Jacob. She spoiled my cooking because I refused to cook for her. She's going to poison me one day. Then my dad would ask, Emily, what's your explanation for this? Dad, I swear I don't know anything about this. I'm happy to cook my own food. I wasn't even home before you came back. I got takeout to eat in my room, I said, trying to explain. Julie interrupted, oh God, she's lying, Jacob. You need to get rid of her before she kills me. This was just one example of what Julie had been doing for the past 5 years. This whole mess was over too much salt in her food, which she had added herself just to blame me. It was crazy, but Dad believed me because I had enough proof over the years. She did much worse. She cut off my phone connection, locked me out of the house for 8 hours, took my car keys on the day of an important test, and even threw away a project I had worked on for a week. Dad tried his best to make Julie understand that her actions were not okay, but she never listened. She would act nice for a few days, and then do something terrible again. By the time Julie had been with us for a year, I got a job and started paying for my own things. I wanted to avoid any interference from her in my life. Dad was upset, but I told him it was good for me to have my own money. I didn't want him to feel guilty. Julie, being a stay-at-home wife, considered Dad's money as her own and didn't want to spend much on me, not even for basic needs. I tried to stay out of her way as much as possible, hoping she'd leave me alone. But she never got the hint and kept bothering me. She was determined to get rid of me from her life and the house, but she had no idea what was coming. The big drama happened a few weeks after my 17th birthday. Since then, Julie had been in a great mood, often singing happily around the house. I knew why she was so cheerful. She thought she could finally get rid of me. Little did she know, I had overheard her talking to her friend on the phone about how she planned to kick me out. I was aware of her plan, but she had no idea what was coming for her. One day, I came home from work and saw my stuff packed in my room. Instead of being upset, I was amused. I said, "Hey Julie, why is my stuff packed and waiting in my room? Are we going on vacation? Don't act so smart, Emily." "I hope you remember my words," she snapped back. "I told you that once you turned 17, I would make you leave. Well, now it's time for you to go. I've decided to be nice and pack your things to make it easier for you." "You want to kick me out of my house?" I asked. "Oh no, Emily. This is my house, and I don't need to keep you here anymore. I'll deal with Jacob later, but you are definitely leaving." Julie had a smug look on her face. She was happy with herself, already thinking about what to do with my room. But I said, "Not so fast, Julie. Karma is coming for you." I calmly took some papers from my bag and gave them to her. She looked confused, so I smirked and said, "I think you should look at these papers first, Julie. I've been meaning to give them to you for a while. It's good you mentioned eviction today. It reminded me of these documents." "What are these papers? Why do I need to read them?" she asked. "Why don't you take a look and find out?" I replied. Julie sat down and started to read the papers I had given her. At first, she looked confused. Then her face changed to shock and disbelief. She looked at me, then back at the papers. Her expression turned angry. "Is this an eviction notice in my name?" "What the hell, Emily, what does this mean?" she asked. "It means I want you out of my house in a month. You know, the usual thing an eviction notice means," I said. "You can't serve me eviction papers. You can't do that. This is my house, and I'm the only one who can kick people out," she yelled. No, Julie. This is my house and always has been. My dad was just a caretaker who held it for me until I turned 17. Now that I'm 17, the house is mine. "I recently finished the paperwork," I explained. No, that's impossible. Jacob can't just give you this house. This is our marital property, and he can't give it to you without asking me," she protested. "How is this marital property, Julie? Dad had this house long before you were around. I guess he didn't tell you that it belonged to my maternal grandparents. They left it to me and had Dad take care of it until I was old enough," I said. "I turned 17 just a few weeks ago." No, you must be lying to me. This can't be true. You're trying to scam me and kick me out of the house. Wait till your father hears about this. He will kick you out instead," Julie yelled. She made the mistake of calling my father downstairs, forgetting she never asked him if she could kick me out. Even if the house belonged to him, she should have asked. She knew he would say no, so she tried to do it behind his back. In her rush, she forgot this detail and decided to involve Dad. I wasn't complaining. It was better for me this way. Dad came downstairs to see what all the yelling was about. He said, "Whoa, calm down, Julie. Why are you screaming like that? What's wrong?" "Why wouldn't I be screaming? Your daughter is making wild claims again. She says this house belongs to her, and she's kicking me out," Julie shouted. Dad turned to me and asked, "Emily, what is going on? I need to know the truth." I knew Dad would ask for my side. He's a good father and knows his wife can be very mean. He always listens to both sides before taking action, which Julie hated. She wanted him to always side with her no matter who was right. They fought about this a lot, but Dad wanted to be fair to everyone. That's why he asked for my side too. I explained. Julie called me down and said she was kicking me out. She told me I couldn't stay in her house anymore. I knew she was planning this because I overheard her talking on the phone. So I decided to kick her out instead. I gave her an eviction notice. Dad was shocked and turned to Julie. "What the hell, Julie? Who gave you permission to try and kick my daughter out? You never discussed this with me." Why am I hearing about this now? Julie realized she had made a mistake. She was so upset by the eviction notice that she forgot she'd be caught. I saw her panic for a moment, then she turned hostile and defensive like she always does. She snapped, "Your daughter is already an adult, Jacob. She turned 17, and we let her stay in the house for a month without paying rent. Most parents kick their kids out when they turn 17. We need to make Emily learn to live on her own and become responsible. That's for me to decide, Julie. You are not and never have been her parent. You didn't even help with anything related to Emily. How did you think it was okay to decide when to kick out my daughter?" Dad said, "You were being unfair, Jacob. All these years I put up with your favoritism because Emily was a teenager. But now she needs to go. I won't let her stay in my house anymore. Who said this is your house? Which deed shows this house? Is in your name? Well, it's your place, so I have equal rights to it. Since I am your wife, this is my house too. I won't allow Emily here anymore. She needs to go. This is not your house, and even if it was, you have no right to it. This is Emily's house, and it's in her name." Julie went pale when she heard that. She didn't expect my dad to agree with me and say the house belonged to me. She lived in her own world where everything was hers just because she said so. Hearing otherwise was a big shock for her. She started to cry and said, "Why would you say such a thing, Jacob?" "Because the house belongs to Emily. I'm just telling the truth. What's wrong with that? You gave Emily the house without talking to me. How could you do this, Jacob? I'm your wife. You should have discussed this with me. I am not okay with this. You had no problem going behind my back and trying to kick my daughter out. Why can't I do the same, Julie? Talk about double standards. There was nothing to discuss. This house was always meant for Emily. I was just the trustee who took care of it until she turned 17. The house was transferred to her name recently." Julie finally understood that we were telling the truth. Dad even offered to show her the papers if she needed proof. She was in too much shock to say anything coherent. She just said, "You deceived me, Jacob. I thought the house was yours. You lied to me. This is not fair." "I never lied to you, Julie. You never asked whose house this was. When we got married, we signed a prenup that said our personal assets stay personal." "Oh my God, this can't be true. You should have told me, Jacob. Now Emily is throwing us out. Look at how ungrateful your daughter is, Jacob." "I'm not throwing you out, Julie. That's just for you. You won't get to live in my house anymore. I might have let you stay, but after you tried to kick me out, I changed my mind. You're the one who has to leave. If you kick me out, your dad will follow too. We're a couple. He won't leave his wife." My father laughed out loud. He had been thinking about leaving Julie for a while, but he wasn't sure. Today made the decision easy for him. He said, "Actually, no, Julie. I'm not following you. I will stay here and take care of my daughter. I've been thinking about divorce for a while, and what you did today sealed the deal. I'll be filing tomorrow. Be ready for it." "Wait, are you going to divorce me? You want to leave me for your daughter? You can't do that." Yes, I can, Julie. Did you think I'd forgive you for tormenting my daughter for 4 years? Absolutely not. I thought you might change, but I see now you'll always be toxic. I don't want someone like that in my or my daughter's life. Julie stepped back as if she had been hurt. She never expected a divorce so soon. My dad is usually a quiet man who doesn't do anything drastic. This was very unlike him. He was mad, and you could see it on his face. He didn't shout, but his tone showed how angry he was. This made Julie even more anxious. She started arguing with my dad, and I decided to leave them and go to my room. Dad and Julie fought for an hour, with Julie shouting and crying while my father calmly explained his reasons. After the argument, Dad came to my room. He seemed a bit sad and wouldn't look me in the eye. He sat down and said, "Emily, I know I need to apologize to you." "I'm sorry, dear. I should have done a better job of protecting you from Julie. I thought being fair and avoiding fights would make things better. I was wrong and made things worse for you. You have to apologize. Dad, I know you loved Julie, and she wasn't like this when you married her. People change, and it can take time to understand these changes. Wow, you've really grown up. I wish I had handled things differently. I brought a mad woman into our lives. Well, what's done is done. I forgive you, Dad. You tried your best, and I'm not upset. Do you really want to divorce Julie? I won't be mad if you don't. I would understand. Girl, I'm not living with that crazy woman anymore. I'm done. Her true colors shocked me too much to act sooner. I don't want her in my life anymore. I had a feeling something was wrong with Julie, which is why I made the prep. I was worried she'd mess up your future and cause money problems, so I thought this was the best way. See, you did think about me too. You deserve to be happy, Dad. That's all I want. If Julie doesn't mean anything to you anymore, it's best to separate. I spent a lot of time assuring my dad that he was not a bad parent. He did a lot for me, and I needed to make him believe that too. I won't lie, I was super happy that my dad was finally getting rid of that crazy woman, Julie. She wasn't the right person for him and shouldn't stay married to him after everything she did over the years. The talk with my dad went well, and he went to the guest room to sleep that night. I finally felt peaceful knowing that Julie would soon be out of our lives for good. It felt great to teach her a lesson. I hope she would remember this for the rest of her life. The real surprise came the next morning when I found Julie acting way too nice and caring towards me. She was in the kitchen making me breakfast and acting like I was the most important person to her. Even Dad was giving her a strange look and looked at me with confusion. When breakfast was over, I said, "Thanks for breakfast, Julie, but you don't have to do this anymore. I can make my own food as I have for the last 7 years. No need to change things all of a sudden." "What nonsense, Emily. I'm happy to do this for you. Eating together can bring us closer as a family," she replied. "What's the point? We won't be a family much longer. You should have done this years ago. It's too late now." "Oh, come on, Jacob. Don't be so hard on me. I'm trying. I can make this work. I'll start being a better parent to Emily. We'll be the best mother-daughter duo ever, right, Emily?" I knew what Julie was trying to do. She was cornered and spent the night coming up with a plan. I knew better than to trust her. Looking at Dad, I could see he wasn't going to trust her either. He just looked a bit amused. Since Julie was waiting for my response, I said, "I don't think so, Julie. First of all, I'm 17 and don't need a new parent. I pay my own bills and will be off to college soon. Secondly, you are not and will never be my mother. That word doesn't suit you at all. Emily, I'm sorry for being so mean to you before. You need to give people a chance. We could be a happy family if you just give me a chance. It will also help strengthen my marriage with your dad." Dad replied, "Julie, you have a few months left of this marriage. I don't know what you're trying to strengthen. If it's an attempt to stay in this house, I'm sorry to say it won't work. You're being kicked out, and I'm going to divorce you anyway. The damage is already done. There's no point in trying to act all innocent and sorry now. I know you better than that, Julie." She saw that her new plan wasn't working, and it seemed like she had run out of options. Julie couldn't threaten to ruin Dad financially because of the prenup she had signed when they got married. She had no leverage left. Her only remaining tactic was to beg and cry, hoping for some sympathy. She started crying hysterically, pleading with me not to kick her out. She begged me to talk to Dad and ask him to give her another chance. She then turned to Dad, begging him to be more forgiving and to reconsider his decision to divorce her. The entire day turned into a long, painful ordeal with Julie begging and pleading for mercy. Since both Dad and I were off work that day, we had no choice but to endure her desperate attempts to change our minds. She followed us around the house, tears streaming down her face and her voice trembling with desperation. Dad had to step out for a while to contact his lawyer and start the divorce process. Julie's pleas continued even when Dad was gone as she tried to convince me to intervene on her behalf. When Dad returned, he was visibly tired of the drama. He informed Julie that he had already taken steps to file for divorce. Julie's face went pale when she heard this. She realized that her attempts to sway us were futile. The next few days were filled with more of Julie's emotional breakdowns. She would alternate between crying and trying to put on a cheerful face, hoping to win us over with kindness, but it was too late for that. Within a week, Julie received the divorce papers. Dad's lawyer had them delivered to her, and her reaction was a mix of shock and resignation. The realization that her marriage was over seemed to hit her hard. She stopped her begging and crying after receiving the papers, understanding that her efforts were in vain. The cold reality of her situation started to set in. Dad and I sat her down and explained that she would need to find a job if she wanted to have a place to live and afford a lawyer for her divorce proceedings. Julie, still clinging to the hope that she could somehow fix things, promised she would find a way to support herself. She was convinced that she could change our minds if she tried hard enough. She kept saying that she would prove herself and make things right, but we both knew it was too late. As the days passed, Julie's presence in the house became more and more unbearable. She would try to engage in conversations, acting as if nothing had happened, but it was clear that neither Dad nor I wanted to have anything to do with her anymore. The tension in the house was palpable, and every interaction with her felt forced and uncomfortable. Finally, the month came to an end, and Julie was still holding on to the hope that we would let her stay. She kept her belongings packed, waiting for a last-minute change of heart from us. But when the time came, there was no reprieve. We had been clear about our intentions from the start, and now it was time to follow through. Julie was given a firm deadline to leave the house. Dad and I stood by watching as she gathered her things. She tried one last time to plead with us, her eyes filled with tears and desperation, but we remained steadfast. Julie's belongings were taken out, and she was escorted out of the house. She looked back at us one last time, hoping for a sign of mercy, but there was none. As the door closed behind her, a wave of relief washed over me. The house felt lighter, freer, without the constant tension and negativity that Julie brought. Dad and I shared a moment of quiet understanding, knowing that this was the right decision. We had endured enough, and now it was time to move forward, leaving Julie and her manipulations behind. She made a fuss when we told her to leave, but after Dad threatened her with more legal trouble, she left crying. I heard she moved in with a friend because her own family doesn't want her around anymore. When she left, she took all the negativity with her. and the house finally felt like home again. It's been more than 3 years since all this happened. I'm now in college, which is conveniently close to home. Dad successfully divorced Julie and has started dating again. He says he's not looking to settle down, but just wants some companionship from time to time. Life at home has been peaceful since Julie left, and Dad and I have grown closer. We often laugh about the drama that once filled our lives and how much better things are now. As for Julie, the last I heard, she moved into a small flat with several roommates. She's struggling to make ends meet because she doesn't have many skills or qualifications. Julie is working a minimum wage job and is just barely getting by. She's living a very different life from the one she tried to control in our house. I saw her from a distance at a grocery store a few months ago. She looked worn out and seemed to have aged a lot. Her hair was messy, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She looked nothing like the confident woman who tried to take over our lives. It was clear that life had taken its toll on her, and she was no longer the powerful person she once pretended to be. Seeing her like that made me realize that karma had caught up with her. She tried to manipulate us and take control, but in the end, she ended up with nothing. I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief, knowing that she was no longer a part of our lives and that we were finally free from her negativity. The house, once filled with tension and arguments, now felt warm and welcoming. My dad and I have been able to move on with our lives. We often talk about how much better things are now and how grateful we are to have each other. Dad has even started taking up new hobbies like gardening and cooking, things he never had time for when Julie was around. We've created a peaceful and happy home, one that is full of love and laughter. Julie's departure has been a blessing for both of us and has allowed us to rebuild our lives and focus on what truly matters. We no longer have to deal with her constant drama and manipulation. Instead, we've been able to enjoy the simple pleasures of life, like spending time together and making new memories. As for Julie, I hope she has learned from her mistakes. Life has not been easy for her, and I believe that she has finally realized that you can't build happiness on lies and deceit. The last time I heard anything about her, she was still struggling to make ends meet and living a very difficult life. She's working hard to survive, and I think she has finally understood the consequences of her actions. I don't wish anything bad on her. I hope that she can find a way to turn her life around and learn to live with honesty and integrity. Perhaps the struggles she's facing now will teach her valuable lessons and help her become a better person in the end. Everyone deserves a chance to change and improve their lives. Looking back, I'm grateful for the challenges we faced. They made us stronger and brought us closer together. My dad and I have become a great team, and we've learned to appreciate each other even more. We've built a life filled with love, respect, and understanding, and for that, I am truly thankful. Julie's story serves as a reminder that trying to hurt others and take what isn't yours will only lead to your own downfall. It's important to live a life of kindness, honesty, and respect for others. I hope Julie has found some peace in her new life and has learned from the mistakes she made. As for us, we are happier than ever, and we know that no matter what challenges come our way, we can face them together with strength and love. Naturally, I inquired why he had made a family card of his in-laws, as well, to which James chuckled and replied, "Because they are my family." They must have one family card, right? Got a problem with that, he added. You wouldn't have anything to say if you knew who helped you when no one was there. His strong tone took me off guard, and I had never heard that from him. Was James always like this? He said, "If you are grateful, then do better with my family. Then you will be family to me. In a sense, you are in some kind of trial period until then." I had never heard of a trial period in marriage. James went on, seeing I was quiet. In other words, you're not fully part of the family yet. If you don't like it, you can leave any time. For now, our family is just the 6 of us. I was shocked. After that, I immediately canceled all our joint credit cards and moved out. My name is Polly Cook, 30 years old. I'm a freelance illustrator. I used to work as a designer for a big advertising agency, but started on my own 5 years ago when I got married. Now I work from home. My parents died in an accident when I was young. I was raised by my maternal grandparents, but moved back to my parents' apartment near the city center for college. I've been living there ever since. I met my husband James at an Italian restaurant where he worked. It was a nice place with reasonable prices and good food, so my colleagues and I often went there. That's when James, the handsome waiter, became a topic of conversation. Indeed, he was good-looking. The manager once joked that a lot of the regulars came just to see James, and I could see why. I won't deny that I became one of James's fans because I thought he was really cool. He really stood out for some reason. We quickly became closer, and soon people were calling us a couple. Surprisingly, we ended up getting married. I don't remember much about that time. It's almost like I was in a daze. When I snapped out of it, I was married to a man I was calling my husband. But I loved James then and was happy when we got married. I quit my job as a designer at the company and started working independently. It was a friendly departure, and I continued the same kind of work, but on my own. James kept his job at the Italian restaurant, working different hours, sometimes late into the night. It became hard to work as usual, and I had always wanted to work independently, so I decided to go for it. It's a good idea, Polly. It'll be easier for you. And it's great to keep doing what you love. James supported my decision. That's how our life as newlyweds began. We both didn't care for flashy things, so we decided not to have a wedding ceremony and just officially registered our marriage. We met each other's families briefly, and that was it. James went to work, and I worked from home and did the household chores. Our schedules were irregular, but we kept in touch and waited to have meals together when we were both home. It was a happy, simple life, and I thought, marriage is nice. But about a year after we got married, everything fell apart. My family wants to come over. Is that okay? James asked one day. Of course, I said it was fine. I had only met and briefly talked to James's family at our initial meeting, so I thought this was a good chance to get to know them better. Having lost my parents at a young age, I always admired James's large family. But when his family of 5 arrived, I was left speechless. Hey, which room is mine? His sister asked as soon as she walked into our house. James's sister, who is 35 years old and 3 years older than both James and me, worked at a local supermarket. I was shocked by her rude behavior, so different from the polite greeting she gave me when we first met. James's 22-year-old sister was also there, but she was quiet and just stood there without saying a word. I remember she barely spoke when we first met. Hurried by James's sister, I showed the 2 sisters to the guest room and James's parents to the room that used to be my parents' room. It was the only Japanese-style room in the apartment, so I thought it would be best for them. After settling into their rooms, James's sister announced, "Well, since we're going to be living here together, you better start serving our family properly." I was confused by what she meant, but when I looked at James for help, he just laughed in a way I had never seen before. It turned out his family had given up their own home and moved into my apartment without telling me. Sorry, our family home suddenly had to be vacated, and they had nowhere to go, he explained. I wish he had told me earlier. I had thought it was just for a day or 3, and this was really inconvenient. When I mentioned this to James, trying not to upset him, he looked down and apologized. "Please, just until they find somewhere else to go," he pleaded. I couldn't say no. How could I turn away people in need, especially the family of someone important to me, without even a place to go? I reluctantly agreed to live together on the condition that they find a new place as soon as possible. But I would come to regret this decision. James's family showed no restraint. All four of them, from the day they moved in, did nothing and left everything to me, saying whatever they wanted. They made no effort to look for a house or a job. When I asked about their jobs, I was in for another surprise. "Oh, I quit that lousy supermarket job," she had said. She was employed, but apparently it was just part-time work. I had thought she worked full-time because of her age, but she told me she hadn't had a steady job since high school. James's parents also had part-time jobs, which they quit before coming here. And of course, James's other sister was unemployed. She had claimed she was a student, but that was not true. "Why should I work when I've become part of a wealthy family?" she asked. When I asked who she was talking about, I got another shocking reply. "You, of course. You got a big settlement and insurance money from your parents' accident, and you don't even have a mortgage on this apartment. You can live without working," James's sister said, laughing. I complained to James when he got home, but he yelled in a way I had never seen before. Everyone's tired from suddenly having to leave their home. Let them rest for a while, or do you want to kick out my family, Polly? Stunned, I froze. Then James suddenly softened his tone. "Sorry for yelling. I'm having a tough day too. Can you just be a little more patient?" Looking back, James was skilled at manipulating situations with a mix of kindness and harshness. But at that moment, I didn't see it and agreed to endure a bit longer. The tyranny of James's family got worse. They treated me like a servant at home and demanded money when going out. "We can't job hunt without a penny, can we?" "It's fine, but if we can't find work, we'll just keep living here," they said. I reluctantly gave them some money, which they claimed to have spent without finding jobs. They probably never looked for work, but if I said that, they would accuse me of lying without proof, and James's whole family would blame me for hours. Telling James didn't solve the problem. Everyone's frustrated about not finding jobs. "Sorry, just bear with it a little longer." "I'll talk to them," James said, trying to smooth things over. But as time went on, I felt like saying anything was pointless. However, the frequency of them asking for money gradually decreased, perhaps because James said something, so the issue seemed to resolve itself. Of course, the money I had given them was never returned. Then after about 2 months of living this way, I noticed something alarming. Why is the credit card bill so high? Could it be unauthorized use? When I quickly checked the credit card statement, all the charges were made with family credit cards. The purchases included food, drinks, books, games, and even expensive brand bags and clothes. Each item was labeled with a number from 1 to 6, showing that 6 family credit cards had been issued. These credit cards were in my name, with James using the family cards. "It seems like you'd be better at handling this, and it's more convenient to consolidate payments, right? Can I leave it to you?" He had said, and I ended up managing them. But it turned out these family cards had been issued without me knowing. James's family stopped asking for money because they could now make credit card payments and cash withdrawals. When I confronted James about why he made family cards for his in-laws without asking me, he laughed and said, "Well, you complain when they say they have no money, so what choice do I have? Besides, you know who took you in when you were all alone, right? Can you really say such things to the important family of your benefactor?" I was stunned into silence by his bold tone, unlike anything I had heard before. Was James always like this? If you're grateful, you should serve my family more. Then I'll acknowledge you as family too. Until then, consider it like you're on a trial period," he continued. I had never heard of a trial period in marriage. Seeing my silence, James pressed further. "This means you're not yet an official family member. If you don't like it, you can leave any time. Right now, it's just the 5 of us in our family. Useless parasites get out." That's when I realized James's true nature. I felt as if all the blood had drained from my body. Shocked, I considered divorcing James. In fact, I began to wonder why I had married James in the first place. Initially, I just thought he was a handsome guy. Like the other girls, I was just excited about him being handsome without any particular reason. Then one time, when I went to the restroom, James approached me. "You seem different from other people, Polly." I don't know, kind of mystical. Sorry, it's not something I should say to a customer. I was surprised but kept listening, and I gradually started to pay more attention to James. Maybe that was his plan, to make me like him. When I think about it calmly, it makes sense. I remember once when James came to our table for small talk, a colleague jokingly said I was a wealthy lady living alone in a condo. It was right after that he started talking to me, probably because he was interested in my wealth and the condo. Honestly, James wasn't really my type. To put it nicely, he was modern. To put it bluntly, he seemed a bit frivolous. I liked mature men who spoke quietly and seriously. But somehow, I ended up falling for James. I always found that strange since James was the typical handsome guy, and it must have been easy for him to charm a woman, especially someone like me who was new to the workforce and not used to men. I fell for his tactics and ended up marrying him. This thought made me feel so frustrated and embarrassed. I felt like destroying everything in the house, but I wasn't foolish enough to act on that impulse. Instead, I decided to get revenge. To do that, I needed to endure this life a little longer, just like James manipulated me. I planned to control his entire family. The condo we live in was bought by my father with a mortgage soon after I was born. It wasn't very expensive back then, but the area developed rapidly with a new shopping center nearby, and now it's considered a luxury condo. My parents, hoping for more children, bought a spacious condo. That's why there's enough room even with James's family moving in. But even with its decent size, having James's family around is a nuisance for me, especially working from home. I'm enduring this only for the sake of revenge. As James' sister said, there's no mortgage payment for this condo. When I was 4, both of my parents died in a car accident. They were coming back from my paternal grandfather's funeral when they collided with a speeding car on the freeway. That day, I was supposed to go with my parents, but I caught the flu that's going around and had a high fever. So my maternal grandparents came to the condo where we lived with my parents to take care of me, leaving me as the only one who survived. The mortgage payments were covered by the group credit life insurance, so the only housing costs I pay are the management fees and property taxes. James, seeing the amount, said he would contribute just a bit more than that to our household expenses. There's no mortgage, so if I put in that much, we should manage with Polly's income, right? We'll each use our own earnings for personal expenses. Sounds good, doesn't it? I agreed, thinking maybe he was right. Until then, I had been paying for everything by myself, so I thought his contribution would lighten my load. Looking back, it was foolish, but at the time, I was blinded by my love for James and just went along with whatever he said. James probably thinks he's the head of the household and the one supporting me, which is why he can so easily call me a parasite. But in reality, it's different. I pay for most of the expenses like utilities, food, social expenses, and entertainment. Now 5 real parasites had been added to my household, making it impossible to manage with just that amount. I wanted to get rid of them as soon as possible, but I pretended not to notice and endured. I gritted my teeth and let James's family freely shop, reminding myself that I'll be the one laughing in the end. Then 5 months after deciding to divorce, the date of act finally came. "I'm tired. Please decide. It's either me or your family," I told James, presenting him with a final decision. He was surprised, but I continued without concern. "None of your family members lift a finger to help around the house. They just dump all their chores on me. You know I work from home. I'm not just playing around. Yet they treat me like a freeloader and tell me to know my place since you're supporting me." "I've had enough," I cried. I confronted James. He smirked at me and said, "Then you should leave. Didn't I tell you before? You're not really part of this family yet. Giving up like this means you didn't earn your place in the family." I acted shocked as I looked at him. "What are you surprised about? If you can't live with my family, then you're the one who has to leave. Oh, and since I'm not at fault, I'll take this apartment as alimony, and I'll take half of your savings as part of the property division." Ah, so that was his plan all along. That's why his whole family kept harassing me, trying to drive me out. I knew it, but hearing it said outright was still a shock. It was someone I once loved and even married. But thanks to this, I made up my mind. "Fine," I said, deciding to divorce James. "But this condo is mine, and I'm not at fault either." "What did you say?" James seemed shocked that I outright rejected his proposal, not expecting such a response. It made sense as I had always complied with his demands since our marriage. Thinking back on it made me angry. "I don't want to spend another second with you all, so I'll leave now, but you should also prepare to leave." "It's a joke, right? This is our home. We won't leave." "Ever heard of residential rights? You can't just force people out who live here," James shouted. Ignoring his ranting, I left the house and went to my grandparents' place. I explained everything and asked if I could stay until things were settled. My grandparents were shocked to learn what I had gone through and scolded me for not consulting them earlier. With tears in their eyes, I apologized. "Grandma, Grandpa, I'm sorry for worrying you, but I'll be okay now." "I look fragile, but I'm not really," I said, forcing a laugh with tears in my eyes. The day after I left the apartment, James contacted me right away. "Hey, what's this all about?" "What are you referring to?" I asked about the certified mail. I was impressed by how quickly things were moving. I had handed the divorce proceedings over to a lawyer, and when I told them yesterday that I was leaving the house, they arranged for everything to be sorted out today. "I'm not paying any alimony, and I'm not leaving the condo," James declared. But legally, he had an obligation to pay, and he didn't have the right to continue living in that apartment. "What are you talking about? That apartment is mine too since we're married. If you insist, then pay me half its value to buy me out," he said. Such an absurd claim. Talking like this is getting us nowhere. "Please communicate through my lawyer from now on," I said, ending the call. I knew he would probably call again tomorrow, but I had no desire to talk anymore that day. As expected, he called the next morning. "Hey, what's this all about?" He repeated the same line as yesterday, showing no creativity. "What are you referring to?" "The card's not working. What did you do?" "What I did was cancel it. That card was mine, and you were just using the family card, remember?" Indeed, before leaving the house, I had switched all the contracts from that card to another and canceled it. Of course, the family cards would stop working when I canceled mine. I was the one paying for it. Yes, you paid the apartment's management fee and property taxes just for the first 4 months. It's not much, but I can deduct that from the alimony if you like. I mocked him. I heard some indistinct shouting from the other end of the phone. That's right. James only paid the agreed amount for just 4 months. He made various excuses about the store and whatnot, always finding a reason to ask me to wait. But then he stopped paying altogether. If he forgot and thought he was still paying, that's some poor memory. But I didn't care anymore. He's someone I'm cutting ties with. His memory doesn't matter to me. That's the situation, so please pay your half of the living expenses I've been covering. I've kept a detailed record of our household expenses, which I'll use as evidence to fairly divide our savings. It's marital property, he demanded. Yes, I understand. Let's split it accordingly, I agreed. He ended the call with a reminder not to forget. A few days later, I got another call from him using the same line. I realized they lacked not only memory, but also vocabulary. What do you mean by the split of shared property? Why is it 0? You must be rolling in cash from your parents' insurance and alimony, he said. Ah, so that's what they were thinking. I patiently explained that my savings before marriage weren't part of the shared property, and since we had no savings after marriage, it naturally amounted to 0. Don't lie to me. If you think I'm lying, why don't you consult with someone? From now on, please communicate through my attorney. I won't be speaking to you directly anymore. Goodbye, I said, then hung up the phone and blocked James's number. 1 month after I left the house, James and his family finally moved out of the apartment. Not because they had a change of heart, but because they couldn't sustain their lifestyle. Naturally, James's income alone wasn't enough for a family of 5. They were used to shopping extravagantly with my card. Telling them to cut back now was impossible. I had let them use the card intentionally, knowing it would come to this. His family started pestering James for shopping money, and when he refused, they began stealing from his wallet. Even when James got angry, they blamed him for kicking me out. To top it off, the electricity, gas, and water were all shut off. Of course, I had arranged for that since I didn't plan to live there for a while. James tried to get the utilities restored immediately by phone, but the house was in my name, so no one else could reconnect them if the owner had stopped them. During the hot summer and early fall, his family couldn't handle the extreme heat and eventually left the condo. Where they went, I neither know nor care. James tried to stay until the end, but he eventually gave up because there was no electricity and he couldn't bathe. The divorce proceedings went faster than expected, not because James had a change of heart, but because he made mistakes. He cheated on me while we were still married, or rather he started making moves on someone thinking he could kick me out soon. He boasted about owning a luxury apartment in a prime location downtown, using it to attract young girls. It's surprising he did this while his family was around, but he had a history of such behavior, so they didn't mind. Before leaving, I had installed cameras in several places in the house, which captured all the evidence. Maybe he underestimated me, but he really did disrespect me. He brought his family into my home without my permission, made a family card, left me the bill, kicked me out, and cheated on me. I demanded a hefty sum in alimony for all these. When James saw the amount, he turned pale and desperately pleaded for reconciliation. But I had no such intentions. Knowing he couldn't pay, I made him borrow as much as possible from his company and took whatever I could get. When I threatened to sue him for fraud over the family card, he reluctantly agreed to my terms. Well, I hope he does his best to pay off his debt. The divorce is finalized, and I'm still staying at my grandparents' place. I haven't decided what to do with the apartment yet. I might sell it. I treasured it because my parents left it to me, but since they passed away when I was very young, and I have no memories of them, plus all this has happened, I think they'd understand if I let it go. My work as an illustrator is picking up. I might live alone again, but it's a good time for that. I can work just fine staying at my grandparents'. I'll depend on them a little longer, then move forward with strength. Next time, I won't be fooled by a man who's only good-looking. I hope to find a partner I can share my life with. Today marks a significant chapter in my life as I stand in the comfort of my own home, surrounded by its walls that hold countless memories. Jack, with a beam of pride illuminating his face, welcomes me with open arms. His gestures mirror his joy as he explores the spacious room with an enthusiasm that's almost infectious. We find ourselves in the heart of my family's abode, a place where my father's dreams took shape. Blessed with considerable wealth, my father poured his heart and soul into this home, transforming it into a masterpiece valued at an astonishing $100 million. This house stands as a testament to his dedication and passion, a legacy he entrusted to me before his departure from this world. Now, as I navigate through life without him, my husband asserts his claim over this cherished inheritance, suggesting that what was once solely mine should now be recognized as ours. Despite my insistence on its significance to me and me alone, he remains undeterred, armed with a smirk and unwavering confidence. Yet I hold on to proof, evidence that underscores my rightful ownership, documents bearing my name, Sarah, as the sole heir. At 42, my life is intertwined with the digital realm thanks to my role at an online bank. This career path wasn't chosen at random, but was influenced by the values instilled in me by my parents. With their expertise in financial management, they taught me the importance of fiscal responsibility, lessons that have stayed with me into adulthood. Growing up in affluence, they ensured that I understood the value of money, urging me to appreciate and conserve it. Despite our financial standing, my upbringing was marked by modesty. My allowance hardly surpassed those of my peers, and lavish dining was an exception, not the norm. My education was rooted in the community, attending a local public school over an exclusive private institution. Yet rumors of our family's wealth spread, painting a picture of a life filled with luxury and endless indulgences. Sarah, with your massive house and wealth, life must be a breeze, right? You must have all the latest gadgets and games. Can we come over to play? Such questions were commonplace, yet they couldn't be further from the truth. My reality was far from the opulence many imagined. Despite not having the most expensive toys or the newest theme consoles, the assumption was that I lived a life of extravagance. I often found myself at the center of unwelcome attention, with peers perceiving my family's financial status as an opportunity for their gain. "Sarah, you're wealthy, aren't you? Could you lend me some money?" Such inquiries made me uncomfortable, highlighting a stark contrast between the perceived notion of my lifestyle and the values my parents worked hard to instill in me. In a twist of fate, I found myself in a tricky situation when I accidentally damaged Maria's gaming console. At the moment, my pockets were empty, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Around the same time, Julie and I had just started our journey as fifth-grade classmates. She questioned whether I had shared this dilemma with my parents, but the fear of their disappointment sealed my lips. "I can't tell them. They might get upset. That's why I'm turning to you, Sarah," she confessed. The thought of saying no weighed heavily on me, fearing it might lead to an uncomfortable atmosphere at school. However, my parents' firm stance on not lending money left me with no choice but to apologize to Julie for my inability to help financially. My refusal left Julie in tears, and it wasn't long before whispers began to spread. Accusations were thrown my way, questioning my reluctance to aid a friend in need, given my family's financial stability. I found myself entangled in a situation that I had no part in creating, steadfastly explaining that my hands were tied due to a lack of funds. Amidst this, Maria chimed in with a judgment that stung, suggesting that I valued money over friendship. The situation escalated as Maria and Julie wove a web of lies around me, claiming I had borrowed money without repaying and refused to cover the cost of the broken console. The school's faculty soon untangled the truth, reprimanding Maria and Julie for their actions. Unfortunately, their warnings only fueled the fire, and the rumors spread like wildfire, eventually reaching my parents. In response, my father took it upon himself to address the matter, leading to a meeting with the involved families. Despite receiving half-hearted apologies, I chose to keep my distance from Maria and Julie thereafter, enduring their occasional mocking glances, but no direct confrontation. That evening, over dinner, my father offered a piece of advice that I would carry with me for years. With a reassuring smile, he reminded me of the importance of standing firm in my decisions, especially regarding financial matters. Sarah, always remember, it's okay to say no. You don't have to disclose whether you have money. If someone persists, just say you'll need to ask your parents, even though you know it's not permitted. This lesson on navigating financial disputes with grace and firmness became a cornerstone of my approach to friendships and financial interactions. As I moved on from elementary school and later graduated from university, I became more cautious about whom I invited into my personal space, focusing on building relationships grounded in character rather than material wealth. My career post-university was marked by a deliberate effort to steer clear of financial entanglements, dedicating my energy to my work and maintaining a private personal life. This experience taught me the value of boundaries, both in friendships and finances, shaping the person I've become today. At the age of 35, I crossed paths with Jack, who would later become my partner in life. Our meeting was orchestrated by a mutual friend, and despite Jack being a year my junior, his sincere and buoyant spirit quickly won me over. His candor was a breath of fresh air, and it wasn't long before our casual dating blossomed into a serious relationship. 2 years down the line, we celebrated our union with a vibrant wedding ceremony, much to the delight of my parents, who warmly embraced Jack into our family. About a month into our marriage, my father, perhaps sensing the depth of our bond, proposed the idea of having Jack over at our place. Although I had full confidence in Jack, I harbored some reservations about his penchant for conversation, fearing he might inadvertently divulge sensitive family information. However, emboldened by a month of marital bliss, I decided it was time Jack knew everything about my background. Thus, I extended an invitation to him to visit my parents' home. Jack's reaction upon stepping into my family's residence was one of sheer astonishment. His awe was palpable, a clear indication that the reality of my family situation had taken him by surprise. The visit, although warm, left Jack with an insatiable curiosity about our financial standing, a topic broached repeatedly during our journey home. My own knowledge on the specifics of our family wealth was vague, yet Jack's inquiries stirred a sense of unease within me. A few months into our marriage, I received a distressing call from my mother informing me that my father was to be hospitalized. The news came as a shock, further compounded by the revelation of his recent health struggles, which until then had gone unnoticed by me. Reflecting on our last visit, I recalled my father's diminished appetite and frail appearance, which now filled me with regret and concern. Accompanying my mother to the hospital that Saturday, I was greeted by my father's attempt at cheerfulness, though his somber mood was unmistakable. His apology for what he perceived as a burden to us underscored his gentle nature. The subsequent diagnosis of advanced pancreatic cancer, with its spread beyond the possibility of surgical intervention, left us in a state of disbelief and sorrow. The notion that someone as health-conscious as my father could fall victim to such a cruel fate was beyond our comprehension. In the aftermath of the diagnosis, my father's resolve was touching. He expressed a desire for our happiness, a sentiment that moved us to tears. Resolved to cherish every moment with him, I found myself restricted by hospital protocol, which limited visits to immediate family members. My father's longing for the presence of friends and the creation of joyful memories at our home was a poignant reminder of the life he wished for us. Determined to honor his wishes, I pledged to uphold the legacy of our home as a place of warmth and joy, even in his absence. The promise to cherish our family home became a testament to my father's enduring spirit and the deep bonds that tied us together. Driven by a desire to fulfill my father's dream, I decided to renovate our family home, a project that became my solace and focus during a challenging time. Jack, ever attentive, expressed concern over how much time I devoted to my father in his final days, oblivious to the complexities surrounding our family estate that I had kept from him. When Jack inquired about my father's health, I confided in him about the difficult journey we were facing, finding some comfort in his support despite the whirlwind of work, hospital visits, and the emotional toll it was taking on me. However, tension surfaced when Jack's curiosity veered towards my father's finances and estate. His suggestions of involving legal advice to discuss financial matters, just in case something happened to my mother too, struck a nerve, dredging up painful memories. While my father had a trusted lawyer, Jack's insistence on being prudent about financial affairs began to create an emotional chasm between us. In the ensuing months, my father bravely fought his illness, but eventually passed away. The inheritance discussions that followed among family members led to me receiving a substantial house valued at $5.5 million. Jack's escalating interest in the inheritance, despite my attempts to keep him at bay, only intensified the strain. His excitement about moving into the big mansion and his intrusive questions about financial details took me by surprise, especially when I learned he had been informed by my cousin at the funeral. The cousin's offhanded remarks about the house being a waste if left empty only added to the tension. My explanations to Jack that the inheritance was not communal property seemed to fall on deaf ears, leading to an increase in hostility between us. Although he was present at my father's funeral, Jack distanced himself from the responsibilities and support needed during the subsequent memorial services and inheritance formalities. After some time, as life began to find its new normal, Jack revealed a shocking turn of events. He claimed to have changed the ownership of my family home into his name, presenting legal documents as evidence. This revelation not only breached the trust I had placed in him, but also signaled a profound misunderstanding of the boundaries and respect integral to our relationship. The complexity of navigating inheritance matters had unveiled deeper issues in our marriage, prompting a reevaluation of our values, trust, and the future direction of our partnership. The revelation from Jack left me reeling, struggling to comprehend his actions. He bluntly admitted his fatigue from our relationship, suggesting we could coexist as housemates in the family home, albeit with me receiving minimal financial support. His ultimatum of divorce if I resisted was a jarring twist to our already strained relationship. In a mix of shock and despair, I implored him to reconsider his sudden decision and the unauthorized change in property ownership. Jack disclosed that he had sought legal counsel to facilitate the ownership transfer without my consent. The situation escalated to the point where divorce seemed the only viable resolution. Heartbroken and disoriented, I began to distance myself from the home and life I shared with Jack, attributing his betrayal to the corrupting influence of potential wealth. The following day, Jack's demand for the house keys, claiming ownership of my ancestral home, pushed the situation into further turmoil. His attempts to forcefully enter the property were thwarted by the timely intervention of security personnel. I presented the authentic ownership documents to the guards, firmly establishing my rightful claim to the house and inheritance from my father. Jack, confronted with the undeniable proof of my ownership, was visibly shaken. His misunderstanding stemmed from a supposed legal advisor named Jerry, who had promised to navigate the complexities of inheritance law on his behalf. Entrusting Jerry with a significant sum of $360,000 to alter the property's registration, Jack had fallen victim to a deceitful scheme. In the midst of this confrontation, Jack's emotions surfaced as he repeatedly attempted to contact Jerry, only to be met with silence. His frustration boiled over, denouncing Jerry as a fraudster preying on those blinded by greed. Jack then directed his bitterness towards me, criticizing my expenditure on what he deemed frivolous, questioning my understanding of inheritance registration and associated costs. Despite his attempts to salvage our marriage, suggesting we reconsider the divorce, the breach of trust and the depth of his deception were insurmountable. I requested the security guard to escort him away, closing a painful chapter of my life. In the months that followed, reflection and distance allowed me to process the events, reinforcing the importance of trust and honesty in the foundation of any relationship. The ordeal with Jack, underscored by manipulation and betrayal, served as a poignant lesson in guarding against the allure of wealth at the expense of personal integrity and love. On the solemn occasion of my father's first memorial service, held at our family temple, Jack made an unexpected appearance. Since our divorce, life has not been kind to him. Jobless, entangled in financial woes, and seemingly betrayed by those he once trusted, Jack cut a forlorn figure. His disheveled state spoke volumes of his plight, standing in stark contrast to the respectful solemnity of the day. As he attempted to express his apologies amidst tears, his actions inadvertently shifted the focus away from the memorial, causing a stir among my relatives. Despite his emotional turmoil, I found myself compelled to ask him to leave, a request that ultimately necessitated intervention by security. This incident, happening during such a poignant moment, left me with mixed feelings. Eager to move forward and distance myself from the shadows of our shared past, I decided to relocate from my parents' home, a decision that had been in the works. I settled into a new abode, severing my connections with Jack, who, despite everything, continued to visit the family property, now transformed into a thriving rental villa. My mother and I embarked on this new venture together, managing the villa that blossomed into a vibrant place of joy and respite for many. Jack, on his end, appeared to have embarked on a path of self-improvement, securing a new job and earnestly pursuing a fresh start. The transformation of our family home into a rental villa not only honored my father's vision, but also became a haven for guests from diverse backgrounds. The villa, celebrated for its picturesque setting and expansive garden, quickly grew in popularity, hosting an array of events from intimate weddings to joyous family gatherings. Managing it alongside my mother deepened our bond and immersed us in a fulfilling journey of hospitality and service. In time, the success of the villa enabled us to enhance its offerings, introducing a swimming pool, an inviting outdoor lounge area, and a playful corner for children. Our dedication to creating a welcoming and memorable experience for our guests solidified the villa's status as a premier destination, drawing travelers in search of tranquility and unforgettable moments. This venture not only allowed us to realize my father's dream, but also provided a platform for creating cherished memories, echoing the warmth and hospitality that he had always envisioned for our home. While tending to the garden of our rental villa, a sense of profound satisfaction washed over me. The transformation of our family home into a haven where guests could gather, celebrate, and forge enduring memories filled me with pride. I could almost feel my father's pride in what we had achieved with his vision. This venture had not only turned his dream into reality, but also bestowed upon us financial stability and a newfound independence. The journey here taught me invaluable lessons about trust, money, and the resilience needed to carve out my own path distinct from the shadows of my past experiences. In this journey of self-discovery, I learned that adversity could indeed shape a more resilient and determined future. News about Jack reached me through mutual acquaintances, indicating he had managed to steer his life in a positive direction, securing a meaningful job and learning from his previous missteps. Jack's progress was a testament to the transformative power of confronting and overcoming personal challenges. Knowing he was doing well brought a sense of peace, affirming that both of us were on our respective paths toward healing and self-improvement. Ultimately, my father's dream served as a catalyst for growth, not just for my mother and me, but for everyone who crossed the threshold of the rental villa. It became a sanctuary where guests could experience joy and make memories to cherish for a lifetime. The success of the villa stands as a living legacy of my father's vision, constantly reminding us of the values of resilience, determination, and the profound impact of realizing one's dreams. Through this endeavor, we've created a space that extends beyond mere accommodation. It's a source of joy, a site for celebration, and a testament to the enduring spirit of dreaming big and working hard to make those dreams come true.